My hope is that this video will help all of you who need to write your PGP. I wish we had a PDD day, but we just don't, so I'm hoping that this will substitute. But the first thing you need to do is go into your portal, and as you noticed, I was typing. In the search, just type I observation, some of it, and the tile will pop up. Click on that tile, and clearly this is my login, but you will go to growth and plans, and you'll see that there's a button here that says create new plan. Now remember, these plans and you achieving your goal or above are 33.3% of your overall evaluation. So essentially this is taking something out of the whole Palm Beach model of instruction, which is the old Marzano model that it's been reworked last year, and asking you to focus on one element on that thing to grow yourself as an educator. So we're going to create a plan to choose one of those elements to grow ourselves. Now, the first thing to do is to take a self-assessment. You have to choose whether you're doing the classroom teacher form or the non-classroom teacher form. If you have contact with students, it's suggested that you use the classroom teacher form, but if you feel that your job description isn't adequate to that, you can choose the non-classroom teacher form, but you need to speak to your observer about that choice prior to doing it. So I'll choose the classroom one since the majority of those of you will have to do this. And here are all of your options. So this is domain 1, standards-based planning. Hold on, sorry, I forgot my little cursor. This is domain 1, this is domain 2, 3, and then professional responsibilities is down below, that's 4. Now, you can choose one element from any domain. Last year, we all chose this one, identifying critical content from the standards. Now, you may have chosen to do something differently, but remember, I sat us in that session and had almost everyone choose that one. And the reason I did that was because every single time you're observed, that has to be observed. Now, this year, you have more options. So this year, what you need to do is I suggest you evaluate yourself on every single one of these elements all the way through. So to do that, this is what you're going to do. You're going to take your cursor and you are going to click on each one of these elements, and it's going to ask you to evaluate it. So click on, for example, number 1, planning standards-based lessons, and it brings you down below, and you need to rank yourself using this bar here. Now, to know what you're ranking yourself on, you can open it. These are the things that they look for. So do you do these things? If you feel you don't do them well, you can rank yourself at beginning or lower. If you're a new teacher to this school system or to Palm Beach County, I suggest that you rank yourself as not using because this is your first blank shot at this. But for those of us who've been around this system for a while, I wouldn't suggest you go any lower than beginning. So once you click beginning, you need to go back up to the top. And you'll now see there's a green check next to it, which shows that you evaluated yourself on it. So then you'll pick the second one and do the same thing, beginning. Go back up to the top. And then the third one, so on and so forth. So I'm going to do the same process over and over and over again. Now, I'm just going to do a couple from each domain because I don't want to waste your time on this video. So I'm just going to choose a couple to give you an idea of what's going to happen next. You need to do them all. Actually, I might choose a different one. Oh. Okay. Now that I did this and I have evaluated myself, theoretically on every single one of these elements. Sorry, I want to choose one more. What you're going to do is save and close this evaluation. So in the upper right hand corner, there's a button that says save and close. You need to click that button right here in order to get out of this evaluation system. Now that you're out of save and close, you need to choose one element to focus on this year. So in step 2, click select target elements, and any of the elements that you evaluated yourself on will appear here. Now, what was happening before, just to make an explanation, was there was another column here that said what you were evaluated on last year. The district decided, since they did not tell people ahead of time about this, that that is no longer a factor in you choosing your element you want to grow. So don't worry about last year's observations at all. Just choose something that you feel you can get better at and provide evidence of you getting better at it. So for example, a lot of teachers try to choose providing feedback and celebrating progress. So if you want to look at what that says, click preview. The biggest misconception is that teachers need to check these boxes. Checking these boxes does nothing for you. All it does is show you how an evaluator will see the screen when they come to your classroom. So these are examples of things you can do to be highly effective on this particular element. What I want to point out is that providing feedback and celebrating progress is not being a cheerleader in the classroom. You need to be providing specific feedback to students, celebrating individual progress and gains and reaching targets, not just, hey, you look great, you're up today. You can ask students to explain how they're going to use their feedback. And the evaluator is going to look at how many students they feel are receiving feedback and, what's the word I want to look for? And responding to feedback. So the idea is you can look here. They're going to look for students showing signs of pride of their work. They're going to look for students showing signs of pride in their, if it's math, their mathematical practices. So surveys indicate students want to make progress. Not that they love your teaching or love your class, but they want to keep getting better. So these are ideas of what you can look at. Now, all this did was show you what the element was. So in the upper right, you hit close. And now if I really want to choose that, I'm going to choose configure. If I don't want to choose that, I'm going to choose a different one. So maybe I want to look at maintaining expertise in content and pedagogy. At this point, you might want to pause this video and read some of the ones that stand out to you so that you know which one to choose. I can't tell you which one to choose this year. So I'm going to choose maintaining expertise in content and pedagogy. And the reason I'm going to do that, if I preview it, it says that I do things like I participate in professional development opportunities. I seek mentorship from subject area experts. Maybe I go to trainings. Maybe I go to roundtables on a yearly basis. What am I doing? Do I have a growth mindset? Like I want to get better? Do I seek feedback from my peers? Do I implement a deliberate practice or professional growth plan? That's what you're doing right now. So if I want to choose this one, I go back to this screen and I hit configure. Now, you'll notice the red box. That's what I evaluated myself at in the beginning. Now I have to pick what my final goal is. Remember, you need to move up 2 levels in order to be highly effective. But the caveat is that even if you started at applying, as long as you end at innovating, you will always be highly effective. I just highly suggest you go 2 levels just to give yourself that little wiggle room. So I hit applying, and it says if you get applying, you're going to be highly effective. If you get over applying, even better. You're a winner, but you just got to get applying. So now it wants to know what resources, traditional or digital, I'm going to use to grow my target element. And remember, I chose developing expertise in content and pedagogy. So maybe I need to use my standards, so the FLDOE standards, to grow my content. Maybe I'm going to use the online AP teacher forum to grow my knowledge. Maybe I'm going to use AP Classroom. Maybe I'm going to use the roundtables. Maybe I'm going to use, let me think, content-specific district provided resources. You have to answer this. There's no right or wrong answer. And then it says, will you be working on it independently or with others? It doesn't matter. Whatever you're going to do, write it down. So I'm going to be working with others on my content knowledge. Again, you won't be marked wrong for working individually. Just answer the question. Hit save. And now you'll notice it takes me back here and it shows me the one I selected and all the ones I had evaluated. But remember, you only select one. Don't go crazy here. Then hit back to plan, which is in the lower left-hand corner. And now this is the step that I would say most people do wrong most often. It's step 3. You need to identify your action steps to grow that element. So click on develop a plan for growth, and you'll notice you have to add steps. You have to have a minimum of 2 steps, but you can have more. So let's say if I want to become an expert in content and pedagogy, maybe my first step is to attend the AP roundtables in order to gain some instructional strategies and lessons to implement in my classroom. Now, you do not have to, this is the biggest misconception too, you do not have to choose one of these things in the drop-down menu. In fact, sometimes I think you should not choose them because they do not actually align with what it is you're trying to grow. They're just ideas. As you notice, I typed my own in this little box. I didn't use any of the drop-down ones. I also want to remind you that this year you have to update your PGP before April. So if you choose that you're going to videotape yourself, then you have to provide evidence that you videotaped yourself. If you are going to do a reflection log, you have to provide evidence that you did a reflection log. So just be careful about what you choose. Then the date. The dates are arbitrary, but it's a goal. Maybe the first roundtables are in November. I don't know. I'm making up dates right now. You do not have to put an element. You don't have to pick a resource unless you want that resource. So if you want a reflection log, then add it to the other side and they will provide that to you. Then hit Save Action Step. Now, I need another step, and I want my step to be after this step. So I click on the Add a Step below it. If I wanted to add a step before it, I would click on the one above it. So maybe my next step is implement a newly designed lesson in my classroom based on the information I gathered at the AP roundtables. Okay, now that's my date. So my date goal is maybe March 1st, 2020. I don't have to put an element. I don't have to pick any of these resources. And notice again, I didn't use the drop-down box. All you have to do now, and this is why I want to do this, I can provide evidence of my new lesson when I have to update my PGP. I can upload evidence of my roundtables participation. So now that I have that, I save the action step. You'll notice, November 7th, March 1st. And now I just add Save Action Step Order. Now I go down and I say Activate My Plan. Now, I don't want to I can activate it. I'll activate my plan. And now it's going to take you back to the screen, and you're done. You've written your PGP. Once it takes you back to this screen, you can view your PGP at any time. If your administrator is requiring a copy of your PGP, you can print it off of this screen as well, if my computer ever gets there. And that's pretty much it. That's how you write your PGP. If you need any other additional questions answered, let me know. Again, this is my PGP for this year. I hit view, and if I want to view it, I can always look. This is where I said I would start. This is where I said I would end. Here's all the things I need to do. Here's the questions that I'm going to see, okay, or that I answered. And you can just print it. You go all the way up to the top, and in the upper right hand corner right here it says print, and you can print it and save it. Just remember, at some point this element has to be evaluated by your administrator. And if you are in domain 4, if you're afraid of it not being observed, it can always be covered in your pre and post conference, because domain 4 is more about, you know, working with other teachers or developing your expertise at conferences, which are not necessarily items you may see in a classroom. So if you're ever worried about being assessed on domain 4, you need to just speak to your administrator during your pre and post in order to prove that you are growing that element. I hope this helps, and I will see you guys soon.